Today we're going to fix the fuel pump on this old 98 Ford Explorer. So you have a car that'll crank but it won't run. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you put your key in, try to crank it. All it does is crank and won't run, you probably have a fuel problem. So I'm going to show you how to diagnose that. One way, just stick your key in, turn it to the light to come on the dash. Normally you can hear the fuel pump run. If you can't hear it, I'll show you another way to check. One thing you're going to want to do is check for fuel pressure. I don't have a fuel pressure gauge, most DIY mechanics don't, but you can just break open a fuel line and see if there's any fuel in there. Most newer cars are fuel injected. This is fuel injected, but it's an older fuel injection system. A lot of newer cars will have a fuel rail. This one, I find this fuel line for the right side of the engine, right here. All you have to do is take a wrench, open that fuel line. If you don't have any fuel pressure, no fuel comes out at all, nothing sprays, then you know you don't have fuel pressure. Now, if you look under the hood and you can't figure out what a fuel line is, you can do what I did and you go all the way from the fuel tank and follow the lines all the way up. They should be labeled from the factory that's a fuel line. Follow them all the way up to the engine compartment, and then you can designate which lines are fuel lines. Now, just because you don't hear the fuel pump and there's no fuel in the lines doesn't necessarily mean that the fuel pump is bad. So what we're going to do now is try to figure out exactly what the problem is. We got to make sure the fuel pump is getting electricity. So in this old Ford, you go on the driver's side under the hood, open the electrical panel. You have a fuse. It's 20 amp fuse. It's for the fuel pump. You want to check and make sure the fuse is good. Then you want to check the relays. Here's all your relays. Look in your owner's manual. It'll tell you which relay is which. Even different year models of Explorers are a little bit different on which relay is for the fuel pump. What a relay does, it takes a small amount of electrical energy and it closes a switch. Just an electrical switch is all it is. If that switch is bad, your fuse can be good, but the relay does not actually send the electricity to the motor and it will not work. So what we want to do is check that. In this particular model, it is relay number 5. Good news is relay number 7 is the exact same relay as the one for the fuel pump. So one way you can check that, this is for the horn, is you honk the horn, make sure the horn works. If the horn works, then you know this relay is good. So what you can do is take number 5 out. Once you get number 5 out, you can swap it with number 7. If it still doesn't work, then you know this relay is good. And when you pull the relay out, you can look on the side of it. It actually has a wiring diagram. At the top you see a 3, 4, and a 5. The electrical connection is from 3 to 5. That's what's actually going to run the pump. That'll be these two connectors here. Another way you can check is with a multimeter. The two parallel circuits I was talking about is this one and this one. You get a multimeter, put one wire on one side, one on the other side. You should have battery voltage 12 volts. So with both connected, we have 12 volts. I'll explain a little bit more about the relay. Number 5 and number 7 on this vehicle is the fuel pump and the horn. Now, you honk the horn, you know that the horn works, you want to check it. Then you know that number 7 relay is good. Same relay as number 5 for the fuel pump. So what you want to do is you take 7 and 5 out and you swap them. Blow the horn again if the horn works, and you know the relay that was on the fuel pump was working. But even so, you can still try to crank it with the horn relay in the fuel pump relay spot just to see. Now we check fuel pressure, we know we don't have fuel pressure. We check the fuse, know the fuse is good. We check the relay, we know the relay is good. We even check the voltage at the relay where these two terminals go together. On last resort, what you can do, because I did all these things to make sure this pump was bad, because changing a fuel pump sucks. But you can take a jumper wire, bare wire on both ends, and you want to jump these two terminals but in the electrical box itself. that pretty much bypasses everything. So you put one end of the wire on one side, the other end of the wire on the other side, and that makes an electrical connection all the way through. And if the pump is good, it should pump at that point. If it still doesn't, which this one did not, then you know you got to pull out the fuel tank and fix something. The very last thing it could be is some type of connection going to the pump, but you can't see that until you pull the fuel tank out. So now, let's pull out a gas tank. So one of the first things I did, took off the left rear tire, jack up the car, put it on a good jack stand. That'll give you more access. There's a fuel tank there, give you some better access to some of the fuel lines. Now at the front of the gas tank, this particular model has 2 bolts in the front. Then as you go from the front towards the back, but actually more towards the middle, it has a hanger. And on that hanger, above the drive shaft, there's another bolt. Take that bolt loose. And in the back of the vehicle, inside the left tire, you have your filler hose and then a vent hose. Take those hose clamps loose. After that's complete, you can drop the fuel tank down and you can see all the electrical connections at the top. So my assistant got the 2 bolts out from the front. So now I'm going to put a jack underneath to hold it up. And then we'll take the strap down in the middle. Go in through the driver's side. Alright, so we took both of these bolts out. We took the bolt out for this hanger. It's hanging loose. It looks like the fuel tank is the front is gonna be held up by this lip right here. And I got the jack towards the back of the fuel tank. Got the jack holding it up. And we let the jack all the way down, and this thing is pretty close to full of fuel, but no fuel has come out yet. So we really don't have a need right now to siphon anything out. If you look at it from the back, even though we don't have the fuel tank all the way removed, we can at least get to the bolts that hold the sitting unit and everything. So we're going to unbolt that and see if we can get it out and work on it. Alright, so I've got Celina taking the bolts out. They're 8mm bolts. And that's going to be above the fuel tank. It's in the same position we had it. Now you're going to want to try to get the electrical connection loose so you can pick the entire assembly up out of the gas tank. See if you can get it out where we can get to everything. Yeah, just like that. You're good. Now with the gas tank pulled out, we went ahead and pulled it all the way down. We never had to take the gas out of it. And some of it came out whenever we had it tilted, but this is actually about 3/4 of a tank, and it was no problem to go ahead and lower in the gas tank all the way down. Then we're able to pull the entire assembly out, put it off to the side. So now we can put a new pump on. Remove the fuel pump clamp. After your hose is disconnected, now disconnect the wire. Place the hose with the one that comes in the kit. Put your pump in place. Put the hose clamp on the bottom and a new screen. Reinstall the pump clamp. 7mm bolt. Now with everything reassembled, all we have to do is fish it back into the gas tank. So we have everything fitted in place, got the fuel pump and sending unit back into the gas tank. We pick the gas tank up, put it back on the jack. On the front side, we just hung it back onto the bracket, and we're gonna make sure this works before we put it all back up. Got the key in, gonna turn it on, we're gonna listen for the pump. I hear something. We'll see if it cranks. And that's it. Woohoo! Put all your fuel assembly bolts back in place and get them lined up. Attach the electrical. So we already slid the front portion of the gas tank into the bracket. We put the aft part of the gas tank on the jack. Now all I did was guide it up while Celina pushed it all the way up with the jack. Now we're going to try to put this band back around the bottom. We have the center strap put back in, but we don't have the bolt tightened all the way down. We've had to line it up, so now we can get the two front bolts back in. Now put your filler hose and vent line back on the gas tank. Put your tire back on. All right, one final crank to make sure it works. This is Wes
and Celina
telling you to keep your money in your pocket by doing it yourself. Have a great day.